All right. Do pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was in elementary school. God, I remember that.
I was in high school.
Really?
You can't be on old. You just be in high school.
It seems like it
High
was.
school for what?
When they
Started?
They
Stop.
added,
They added-
when I went to school as a little tiny child, it didn't say in God.
Oh.
But
No,
someplace
the
in,
God was added, Billy Graham's influence on
I remember that.
Billy Graham.
yeah, and I think I was still in elementary school.
And I
St.
decided
David,
I'm not saying
And
it.
they
I'm
added
saying
in God. That's still there. When I retired, it was
Not
still there
know.
at least.
Today's fun fact. Thank you. I think I knew that.
I'm not putting that in there.
You're not old enough.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go forward off of that one. Did anyone have any adjustments to the minutes?
No comments.
I think it was all
Yay.
Very good,
perfect.
very
Well
good.
done,
The
Lisa.
minutes are excellent, but I have, is this a point for a possible addition or
You did.
the things to discuss? This is all, no comment on this, but you had asked me, Pam, I remember in a note for, what about environmental issues on there? Now, I looked at all those I don't have stuff anymore. I used to have to do all that work, but I looked at a map, and each of these, for example, the hospitality zone by Bennett College, there's a stream right across the way. It's in the middle of a primary aquifer,
Right.
and sometimes that's the stream which comes down from the Covenant property, basically, in that area, overflows, and either there's a culvert or a galley underneath where the water can go, and it washes out part of that road, the Halcyon Road section.
Yes.
And so, and then the one where not the day school, what was that one with it?
Is this
They
got
got-
anything to do with the minutes? I'm
No,
just-
no, it doesn't.
Okay, good.
It has to do with the hospitality review agenda item.
Yeah,
Just
maybe
give it
it
a-
is not the right place for that.
So maybe we could wait until,
Yeah, just thinking
because
the same.
there's a lot
We
to say
didn't
on
discuss that at the other
hospitality.
meeting?
No,
All right,
no, we didn't
So
discuss it.
if we're just looking at minutes, then it is not the right place for it.
Bill Bennett. Not letting them in,
No,
because that looks like,
a bummer.
you know, a teenager with nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Doesn't it say that if you're not in there in the waiting room at
Before-
that time,
before,
that you
yes,
don't get in?
One question on the minutes, so is everybody okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing the minutes real fast.
And then we'll get to the hospitality.
So-
No, I just wasn't sure where we were.
And I didn't talk about hospitality at the last meeting.
Okay,
So
so the hospitality question
Came up by
came up
email.
after,
After
only
email, so-
in
I
email.
just, my thought is to attach the letter that Pam had drafted
Correct.
on the short-term rental with the minutes, so it's both, okay, good.
No, these are fine.
And then we can have a motion to approve the minutes.
motion to approve.
Pam, second.
Yeah.
Anyone
I
second?
can't approve my own.
Any second?
Sure. I'll
David,
second
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. So then we'll just quickly go for the NRI CSC update. We had a second farmer's market outreach, which was very successful. We got a lot of people's names down to just in conversation and hopefully get some help. And anyone is available for August 19th one. Everyone that was signed up in the CSC or the NRI group basically got something else to do now. So we have Richard Phillips is going to be there, but he needs a little backup. Like we all have. So, but if anyone knows anyone else that might help, just let us know. But Richard's fine on it, and there'll be somebody from the village.
So what are the hours there? 'Cause I mean, I could maybe come for an hour.
9 a.m. to 1.
10. The farmer's market's 10 to 1.
9 to 1.
Is it? Well, okay.
So I could show.
You can go anytime.
So I'll go for an hour.
That's perfect. And you can just pop in, pop out.
Yeah, that's what I can manage.
That's
that.
perfect. All right. And quickly on the CSC update, we had the task force met today with Jillian Matthews from Cornell for her to go over the last of our actions list so that we can she can produce a report that we're going to present to the town board next week at the town board meeting. So all this will to hear, otherwise you'll get a copy of the report. New business is the planning and ZBA. Howard, anything new happened?
Trying to left my notes in my kitchen table. My son was down, we went out to eat. Had to rush back here, so I don't have my notes. But I think that the only thing that happened at the ZBA, if I have my timing correct, they approved up to Lakes. Well, it was approved. I believe it was last meeting that he's done.
Okay.
So that is now, nobody from Clinton had any comments that was even there to make any comments on it. But so bottom line, ZBA, let's say approved up to Lake High School at the last meeting.
Anything for the planning board now?
Planning board. I told you.
And last night's meeting was canceled.
Yeah, they didn't have a meeting last night, so there isn't anything. That's it. I knew there was
No,
nothing,
the one before that where
but we
you
discussed that.
mentioned, yes,
We already discussed that though.
hasn't been answered yet because they were supposed to come up with a new one. The people doing the hospitality and the
The short-term rental.
short-term rental.
Yeah, they haven't given that to
Haven't.
us yet.
We have no knowledge if they've met. They're still meeting and not allowing anybody to come to their meetings, and it's still not telling anybody when the meetings are or where. So that's ongoing. And if they've made any changes, we might be in the same situation again of sitting in the audience and them handing out a sheet with all of these changes, and at the same time trying to read that and follow the meeting, which is not supposed to happen. They are supposed to, we put this one on the records, they are supposed to have everything available 3 days ahead of time on the internet if they have the facilities. And they do have the facilities to make all that available 3 days ahead of time.
And in this particular case, they're supposed to give it to us to make comments on before, so they
Yes.
have to give it to us at some point before.
So to the best of my knowledge, this is not happening yet. There's nothing on the internet yet. And that's been their past practice with this committee, the two committees that are doing that. It's been ongoing for at least a year. And we've made them aware of it now. And I don't know because they still could comply, but it was getting close to the deadline again. They still have refused to allow us to attend their meetings. And that's not, technically, it is not required because they don't have a quorum of a board on the meeting. But every time I've been involved over many years with things that require a major zoning change, which that is, somebody has always said, this is when we're meeting. You, the public, can come. Sometimes you're just allowed to talk. Other times you have to wait to be given permission to talk. And once in a while, you're not allowed to talk at all. But they've never denied public access except for this one committee. And I find that unconscionable that they do that. Even after we brought it to their attention and asked them to come to the meeting. From now on, they still persist. They're not allowing anybody to come. And that's
It's very disturbing. I agree with that.
So on it's the same lines, but a whole lot of the subject is, it was mentioned and suggested, actually, and you want the ethics committee to help probably shed some light to see if this concept would work. It's such a committee like this should have one board member for each board. And
That's a great
one
idea.
person from the CAC and one public member, but neutral.
That would be a wonderful
That
idea.
should be the way that this type of a committee should be formed, as opposed to two board members, the town clerk, the town attorney, one planning board member.
well, actually 3 board members.
Or who was the third?
Planning board member.
No, that's not a town board.
Oh, did you say town? Oh,
Yeah,
you're so
Yeah,
lucky.
town. Town.
Town, all right. I got you now.
And then there was one other person, but I don't remember who the other person was. And it was just, it it's fine.
But
But it was
getting feedback from other people
It's,
is really.
you need
for other
planning board, you need
stakeholders.
ZBA, you need the CAC, you know,
Well,
all
and
of these
you
other
need
people
the
have a different
public.
input. And public, you need public. I mean, at least one public person, maybe more.
So, the theory might be that they got public input through the CPRC. But if they're going to ignore what's in the CPRC report, what
You need to have somebody else's opinion. And even on just basic of, everyone sees things differently. And somebody is going to spark a chain of reaction
completely agree.
just because they're a different person. Because if you're on the town board,
Mhm.
if you're all the same members, you're already semi thinking alike.
Yeah, it's not really a Board of Ethics issue because the Code of Ethics deals with conflicts of interest in government service. It's a very narrow definition of what ethics is. It's not ethics broadly. It's this. So
I see it, I
I can
see it.
make that suggestion, but it would be more as it's
I know
out,
you can't,
it's outside of the Code of Ethics.
it's outside of all of our, but
So,
at some point, that it seems like a logical step
to
for the town to adopt this practice so that there is no question
yeah.
to who's making.
Who's making the decisions here.
Correct.
And, that goes, yeah, I'll maybe write a note to that effect.
Yeah. And,
Well, because, so that are we going to talk about hospitality next? So are we done with the STR review?
well, because we are only to this extent that we haven't got it to
To follow
review.
up with what you said just now about they should do these things, we gave them a list of other things that you put together that we'd like to see changed in the code. That was a few meetings ago.
Nothing.
And
But that's
nothing,
still, I think that's still in the process.
that's my question. Do you believe that they're working on that?
Yes, I do. I, as a person who's helped to one of these committees and such, I commend anyone who wants to volunteer their time to do it. But in the same breath, I think it should be a wider spectrum of individuals that have input. That's my 2
Yeah.
cents.
I think it would strengthen the process.
I think it would as well.
So there's no STR review because we don't have anything
Because
more.
they don't have anything to give us. They have rewritten
Well, they have.
based on our suggestions, the people's suggestions, our suggestions, which is
Uh-huh.
great, and some other comments, and they just haven't given it to us.
Okay, that's fine.
So we're at that
Yeah.
point, when they give it to us, we'll work on
We'll
comments.
work on it.
So now we'll go to the hospitality.
So I really would be helpful to have Leslie here because to get some context as to what's going on. I went through the draft that Mary Alex gave us, and there are a number of things that are really off about it. And so I put together kind of a discussion draft, and I'm happy to go through the points.
Yeah, please.
But,
Yeah,
but
please
I,
do.
but I mean, the first general considerations, the process seems rushed. Given the significant differences between the draft that Mary gave us and the CPRC report, we think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And a number of our suggestions would require the town to engage in significant drafting. And we just don't see a need for a rapid adoption of the hospitality overlay zone. What is the rush with August 10? That's what I don't understand. Are they going to take some action on August 10, or do they simply want our thoughts?
I'm going to assume that they just think it's part of the process, that it's going to be a public hearing. Then they'll take information back again and then do some more work.
Is a public hearing on August 10? Because the draft seems like it's not well thought.
Normally
through.
after the public, not always, but normally after the public hearing, the next meeting, they adopt it. That we've had the public hearing that we now.
I don't know
That's
if I
been-
know if it's.
And not always, sometimes they
I don't-
continue, but they could.
Actually,
Is it a formal public
I think
hearing?
it is.
I don't.
It would be posted already in the, in the office. Can you think you? It would have to be posted already up there.
So the
To do it in reverse, they cannot adopt the law without a public hearing. So they could rush the public hearing right after they, and then adopt it, or they go next month.
But that goes as to how polished our comments need to be now. There are real problems from an environmental perspective with the zones that they're proposing. They have a western zone that's the Cottonwood. They have the center zone, which is like Daytop Village area. And then they have the eastern zone, which is across the street from Bennett College. The western zone, by the Cottonwood, has got aquifer, rare terrestrial animals, wetlands, you name it. It's got numerous environmental sensitivities. And we have to, I think, say that we have to oppose any expansion within that zone, and that any changes in the property's use have to be done with the utmost environmental sensitivities and with care taken to protect the rare terrestrials and the watershed. On the far eastern side, the proposed zone is right in the protected aquifer area. I don't understand. The CPRC report said that you should have a hospitality zone near the village, but outside the aquifer protection zone. This is in the aquifer protection zone. I don't get it. I mean, I don't understand.
Well, when you look at the proposed overlays, there's not a lot to understand to begin with. It's extremely specific as opposed to an overlay.
Right.
And it's almost as if, I don't want to say this out loud, but it's almost as if you're marketing it for only certain people.
That's right.
And it doesn't look good on paper. So there's no logic to it. And I mean, I get some logic, like we say, Daytop makes perfect sense because it's a pre-existing, it has self-contained water and sewage. So, and it's ample space, but
And the other two, Cottonwood's pre-existing, but the other one, I don't get.
that is, it's 100% in the aquifer.
And so
I walked it this morning.
So
It's
we
very, very lot
so
of
we
water
have
flowing
to-
right now.
Yeah.
Lots of water.
oppose that. So that's one set of problems. Next set of problems is ancillary uses or accessory uses, bar zone, bar or tavern, restaurant, and spa or fitness gym.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in the CPRC report saying that, having truly subsidiary uses might be okay, but this doesn't put any limits on it. Not only that, the zone itself is in some sections tailored to be inns only. At other sections, you can see them adding a different use, and then you'd have this ancillary use for this much bigger property. So I think we need to require maximum size limits on the restaurants and bar tavern usage to make sure that it's really subsidiary. I mean, did this come up at all in the CPRC? Did people think that having restaurants and bars were okay?
Yes.
They did.
But I think it was also, if I remember correctly, it was also limited size.
Limited size. So
Not let's put a 300 person restaurant in for a 20-room hotel.
right, and so so there's a very general language saying that it has to be clearly accessory, but there's no objective standard. So how do you know what's clearly accessory? So we need to add that. The next is motels and hotels. They propose changes to the definitions of hotels and motels that would expand permitted hotels and motels. And the only impact of that is to allow a bigger, so take a look at this. This is a page
Page 8 of 9.
8 of 9. And so they're changing the definition of motel and hotel. And motel doesn't include secondary accessory uses, and the hotel is allowed to have it. Why are they making these changes? The only place where motels and hotels are currently allowed is in Mabbittsville. And this is outside the hospitality overlay district. I don't understand.
On the CPRC final report,
It was,
the wording is,
we recommend prohibiting hotels and motels throughout the town of Washington and replacing them with this inn. And
replacing the inn, so basically eliminating hotel motel, not redefining it.
not redefining it.
Yes, there's absolutely
Nothing there, so then it can't be a public hearing. On the town.
Okay,
So
so there's some hope or flexibility here.
hope for our flexibility.
Then-
So that's a little worrisome of the changing the code to accommodate something that we actually spent way too much time on seeing what we actually wanted
Right,
as a town.
right.
And we don't want hotel motel as a part of our,
Right, and
So-
similarly, the report said, we want a prohibition on commercial camping. And instead, what they did was they added a definition of glamping to the hospitality overlay zone. Now, glamping isn't allowed in this particular round, but it opens the door
to put it in there.
to put it in there.
Right.
And then the rest of the specific considerations, there's just a lot of general language that doesn't really require the developers to do a whole lot. I mean, the town isn't required to ensure that adequate water supplies and septic systems are available without disrupting neighboring water supplies. That's not a requirement. It's simply something, it's a factor for the planning board to take into consideration. So there's an adaptive reuse incentive, but which would allow additional rooms over and above the 20 rooms permitted for an inn. But that's not, there's no cap on the incentive. So that in theory, the planning board could grant, permission to have 80 rooms.
Based on what you've done to offset.
To offset it, that's right. And that wasn't the intent. I think the intent was to have an incentive that was limited, say 50%. You can increase by
Yes.
up to 50%.
Agree with that.
So Howard also mentioned that there's the length of the lighting, rules on lighting should be strengthened.
Yeah.
And that the idea is also that the existing zoning laws should be read in conjunction with the new hospitality overlay district. It's not, the rules don't override existing laws.
Correct.
It's the same point we made with the short-term rentals.
Which-
It's the same issues here.
Which they have adjusted, but we have to wait to see what it is they've adjusted.
Yeah.
They understood our point, which is nice, but I don't know what they've done to change it.
So the question becomes, what do we do with all this by August 10th? I mean, do we write a preliminary letter saying that it's not a full report? One of the things that has to happen is that the CAC, the adoption or modification of the overlay district map shall require a referral to and written report from the Conservation Advisory Commission simultaneously with the required referral to the planning board. So that's section 202 of our existing zoning law. And what we don't want to have happen is this letter be considered the written report,
Correct. We want them to know that it's not our written
report, that this is just a preliminary set of concerns.
Agreed, discussing this.
Yeah, we're in discussion,
Oh, I thought we were still in information, but no, I agree with that.
information discussion.
I agree with that, that it's very important that we don't get rushed through again as they've been doing.
Yes.
And that this is just giving us a little more time to put everything together. So as a preliminary report, and you get a reaction, and this is not our final report. I 100% endorse that, that they accept that point.
Okay.
Did you get a chance to read it?
No, I just handed it out. and I didn't-
Oh, okay, I
did-
can remember if you
No,
sent it
no,
to
I
her.
didn't
Okay.
email it because I just felt very strange. You know, I didn't have any context of what's actually going to
Yeah.
happen on August 10.
So everybody read this, that's your homework. And,
And then in the meantime, I'll put it in the format of a preliminary letter
yeah,
that we could submit by August 10
let them have it
and let them have it
and
and
say, this isn't, we're not done
say,
yet.
we're not done yet. I think that's,
We've just started. Everybody good with that?
Yes,
All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns about hospitality review?
Well, the environment, I'm just throwing out things I remember, so whoever puts together what.
Mhm.
Some of you, maybe all of you, remember when the Blumenthal Brickman development of Bennett College, the guy that wanted to put 92 units in there?
Yep.
There was a lot of work done on the aquifer there at that point in time, and it was decided that in case of an emergency, that aquifer would serve the village. It's not a huge aquifer, but it's enough as a backup in case the village aquifer failed.
Yeah.
Because they never did get a second aquifer anywhere. And that should be noted that that stream in Bennett College stream, as we talked about briefly before, are right next to the zone that they've done by the traffic light and the monument. They're right in that zone, and somewhere in the record, there's all these report papers on those.
Mhm.
It must be in the file somewhere for that, because it was extensively done. And in fact, this fellow, Bill Bright, that's the engineer for the village now, was the engineer for Blumenthal at that time. And he's very familiar with that area. So that's something that needs to be considered. As I remember, you were on the committee, I don't recall if you were on the committee or not, man. They very specifically said that they should start out with one hospitality zone, being the Cottonwood Inn, and see how that works out without going any further, because you're putting in infrastructure and so on. And that the second part should be in conjunction with what the village wants to do. It says so in the language. Now, I come to the next meeting, somebody took all that out in inter-meeting without the public knowing it, and rewrote that section to put in the second hospitality zone by Bennett College, and took a lot of that information outside of what they handed out in the meeting. I only saw it when Mary Alice handed out the minutes. It was stuck in the minutes. And Jeff Battistoni did that work, intra-meetings. So he totally ignored what was said by the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee, who recommended being very cautious about this. And now instead of having one to see what works, we've got three. And if these things fail, then we've got these things to deal with because the infrastructure will be there. And infrastructure never goes away, hardly ever. So one of our recommendations could be, I don't know if we want to do that, is that they proceed a little bit more slowly instead of trying to rush everything through, and that they reconsider what Nan had said at the meeting, and it's in the record. I remember I brought it in here one time and Leslie challenged it, and Margaret showed her where it was in the records. That was where we were supposed to be going. So I think it might be prudent to back up a little bit and stop rushing everything through here, because you're going further and further away from what the recommendations were in the beginning of the report to do. So maybe we could re-stress that point in some places. They're obviously going too fast. If they wanted to pass everything they had a special, they very rarely have special meetings, and then the next week we'll have a real meeting, and we can vote on it. I found that extremely unusual. What they just pulled with the SLR, short STR thing. And now it appears that the hospitality thing is going sort of down the same path. They just want to get it on the record and then pass it. So I think I want to re-stress in our recommendation that they slow down and follow what the original Comprehensive Plan Review Committee said to do.
We will add that. Anything else on that hospitality?
Say again?
Anything else on the hospitality
Or
part?
anything else?
So,
Yes, in a way. Each of these hospitality zones has some sort of a wetlands feature or features.
No, the Daytop doesn't.
Daytop is.
Yes, it does. There's a lake or something there.
No.
Are we talking about the same place or
At least.
which one is Daytop now?
It's the center one. There's,
The one that's across the street from Thorndale.
Yeah, that's
Up
the
on-
one. That's
up on the
Daytop.
hill.
That's the one. We were down there several years ago when something happened, when they originally lost the franchise to keep the,
take a look at it.
yeah, let's take a look at it.
Where's,
So here's Franklin Avenue.
There's
gonna
a
come out.
little blue thing on that property.
Why can I seriously
No, it's
not
because
see where the road is?
I'm,
Here, no?
this is Franklin
East Farm
Avenue
Drive, okay, here.
So this
So
is,
it's out here.
so this is this black line
Yes.
is Route 82.
Yes.
That's the road.
So
And so Daytop Village, maybe, is it
Is
that
the-
thing?
this is Daytop here.
82
This is
here,
above
right?
Daytop, that's above
82
Daytop.
is here.
This is Daytop right here.
Okay.
This is
There's
Franklin
the
Avenue.
little light blue thing right there on your finger.
So that.
That's a water body, if I remember correctly.
So we can point that out.
But that's not where,
It may not be directly.
I don't think it's directly linked to it.
So what I'm saying is, there's two options. We can ask them to have these properties delineated properly now by a wetlands person,
So
this small,
it's
or we can wait until
Yeah,
somebody
it is
starts
in
to
the
build
corner.
on it.
it's up in their corner? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, right
yeah,
here,
yeah,
up in
you
their
s-
very
you see
corner.
that?
Yeah,
And
way up in the
with
corner.
With the stream.
yeah.
So we do have to mention that.
And the Cottonwood Inn area is probably in the buffer, according to that map at least, of all these wetlands. And maybe a little bit on the corner of that property as well, but motel is.
Oh, yeah, no, it's there.
There's a lot, there's actually a lot there. And so there's two choices. I was
So have they
thinking
been
of.
talking about expanding the Cottonwood or or renovating it?
We won't
We
know
don't
until
know.
they propose it.
Yeah.
Unless you guys know
No,
something.
no one knows.
No.
They-
All I
they-
know is that
They went, I know that they probably went back and restructured what they originally thought, based on the new data. But no one knows, because that's their private, project. They'll
Well, they
let-
have
they'll
to do
let the town
something, because the
know.
Cottonwood Inn is completely falling apart. Completely. The motel part is still somewhat maintained,
Yeah, they keep that going.
but the Cottonwood Inn is, I walk on that road sometimes.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
look like dog years ago too, and you can see the difference. The windows are busted out now,
Oh, it's starting to deteriorate.
the roofing is deteriorating, but that is definitely coming down, and nobody's gonna renovate that.
They're not going to renovate that.
So the question is, do you want to ask them to delineate everything now officially, so have a,
No,
Wetlands and- or wait till they start to build on them?
No, I was just curious if there was something out there that I didn't know about, that's all. Some plans that have been announced.
No,
I
No,
just-
that's not my
There are no
question. That you guys have to decide which you think is best. I'm not sure myself. Do you want to ask them now on our recommendations that this land be wetland delineated before anything is further done to it? And have the delineated, because those maps are not completely accurate. And have maybe a Steve Marino or somebody come out, or wait until the person who owns the land starts to do something to it. and have it, then each becomes a planning board issue where they delineate it in part of the plans. I don't know which is the better thing to do, actually.
Well, I think what we're talking about now is simply the idea of having a hospitality overlay district in a wetlands. And we can't do that. I mean,
Well, yes, you can, because Steve Marino will turn around and say, I've looked at it, and you put a couple of plants here or there, and it's not gonna harm the wetland. And every time he said that, they've approved it. So it doesn't automatically stop. It's supposed to say something, why can't you do this elsewhere? That's what it says basically in our wetlands. Well, they have to explain why there's no other use, but they design things that don't have no other use. It fits that particular plan, and you can't do that plan elsewhere. So he comes in and says, well, you can do that plan if you do X, Y, Z. So I don't know if we could tell them that you can't do any of these things ahead of time unless we get it delineated ahead of time. Then people will know not to plan to go into those places. Am I explaining it properly?
so the idea is that, I guess what we advocate for is no exceptions to the existing wetlands law for the hospitality district. So that, it's one thing to have a hospitality district there, but it doesn't make any sense if the district is entirely within wetlands because you can't build there.
Well, what I'm saying is slightly different. We know there's a wetland area there, but in most of my past experience, and David could probably bear me up, he's gone to quite a few of these meetings too. These people design projects that only fit in this one spot in the wetlands. And 3-4 years ago, there was 3-4-5 Woodstock. These people wanted a fishing shack, and it could only fit near the lake in their plan because you can't have a fishing shack. That's like 28 acres. You can't have a fishing shack 5-6 acres away from the wetland, from the water. So that project only fit there. That was their argument. You can't do this anywhere else. So what I'm saying, if a wetlands delineator comes out now and says these particular properties are off limits because they're in the wetlands and there's nothing on them, a person can't come in there and say, I'm designing a project to fit there because they've already been told not to do that. So they can't produce a project ahead of time. So that's the only place my project will fit because I've designed it in such a way. That's my concern with these things. They come in with projects designed only to work in that area, and they try to subjugate the section of code that says, explain why it can't be done elsewhere, because it can't be done elsewhere because you, the applicant, designed it just to fit there. But if we have something in the code ahead of time saying, this is delineated by Steve Marino or whoever, and you are not allowed to build in those zoning areas if you have any other land available. You have to have a project that fits on, not in that section. Because there is no project on the board right now. See, that's their argument. I've made the project already, and I always disliked that. And I hope we can do the same now with these new things. Say ahead of time in some language that's suitable, that you can't build and have a wetlands delineator come out, and basically these are off sections that are off limits on these new hospitality zones. In better language, you will write better language. But that's the point I'm asking. Well, we could wait until they decide to do nothing, and then they will be building something where they want, and then we're fighting that because it's already been designed, and there was no prohibition for them to do it there at that time.
I don't know how we can ask the town to delineate these areas, or if there's any way that you can get them to do. I mean, like, how do you get the town to delineate it?
You sent Steve Marino out, the wetland
Yeah, you
administrator.
do, but somebody's got to pay for him to do that.
Oh, yes, he got paid.
The towns, they're not going to be jumping up and down to do that.
No, of course they're not, but that's, but
So them dropping the.
but
overlay off
we're
is
advising
off the budget.
environmentally. We're not advising them how to do their budget.
No, I know.
If we do nothing, that's exactly what will happen. They will spend no money
Right,
and nothing will happen.
and then they'll drop these overlay districts in places they can't do anything. So it kind of kills the project right off.
Well, actually, I'm not in favor of overlay districts all over the place. I think the basic zoning code was agreed upon by a very large number of people. And then to start to poke holes in it all over the place. like, let's have a mine here, for example, as an overlay or something. Yeah, I'm not in favor of stuff like that. This was all worked out by a large number of people, and then it seems illogical to allow people to nip away at it little pieces by pieces until it doesn't exist
I don't
anymore.
understand this at all. I really don't.
What part don't you understand?
I mean, that the deviation from the CPRC. I mean, I think a lot of people in the town, myself included, would have thought that this would simply be a fulfillment of the recommendations that are in the CPRC report, and it's not.
No, that's what I
mean,
thought too.
That's what I just do not understand.
Well, I believe what I observed happened. I might be wrong. I went to the first meeting and Nan presented everything and extensive notes. I go to the next town board meeting and there's a whole different plan. Not a whole different plan, there's a lot of different changes that they made 2 more overlays, 2 more hospitality zones. A lot of the language that was in there has disappeared someplace into an addendum. You can't even find it. So they did not stick to what they were told originally. They made minor modifications. The biggest one was creating 2 more hospitality zones. At that time, they were told to do 1, see what the village wants, talk to the village about what the village wants, and wait and see how the first hospitality zone works out. If it works out okay, do the other 2 or whatever. If it doesn't work out well, then it's done. That was the original recommendation. And not only was it not discussed at the next meeting, it was done intra-meeting by Jeff Battistoni and whoever. They rewrote that sections of the section. And that's where we are now. We have the Battistoni or whoever version of hospitality. With the other 2 zones and not working with the village anymore. So if that's what you're saying, that they changed what was given them, that's what I believe happened. Not everything, but they changed sections of it significantly enough that we have 3 hospitality zones now on the table at once.
So it says in the summary statement of the report is that 1 in the Washington Hollow area, which we know is the Cottonwood, the other immediately adjacent to the village outside the aquifer overlay.
Which the, maybe the Daytop Village is, and then then you have this third thing that is not.
It is in the aquifer.
It's in the aquifer. So,
Yes,
so that's what's not making any sense.
And these are really just really
But-
defined additional.
that was not what was recommended by Nan in her original report. Her original report recommended the Cottonwood Inn area where we start with the overlays, the hospitality overlay. It's in the first report, not in this one. It's in the report she first submitted. This report came afterwards and was redone with the other overlays being active. You remember that? I said, unless the meeting kept saying, no, that's not true, and then we showed her the paper.
Yeah, no, I thought it was in this report.
No, it's in the previous report.
Is it in the draft copy?
It's in the copy she submitted and was accepted at the previous meeting as her report.
I'm confused because this is, to my knowledge, this is the official report. And I worked on that. I'm still confused. Because I thought what it was that what we said was in this report. I'm still looking, just kidding.
No, you find it,
So what you said is correct, that they're recommending 2 hospitality overlay districts, the Cottonwood, and then adjacent to the village outside the aquifer
Yes.
protection. So the Daytop Village appears to meet that general criteria. And then there's this third one that does not.
So, and plus
but
also,
they recommended only doing the Cottonwood Inn overlay first, and then
No,
waiting to see.
that's not how the final report reads.
Well, then they changed the report, but the report they turned in said that. And at the next meeting,
I don't know if it was in a report or if it was in,
it's the one that Mike
conversation.
Murphy said we're going to adopt as the appendant to the comprehensive plan. This came, in my opinion, you could be right, I'm not gonna argue everything with you. This could be the report that you feel is the final report.
This is the final report.
But it was done intra-meeting. What happened to the one that Nan turned in?
No, that is the whole report that is in. This is the summary report.
That was not in the report, so they summarized, they made up a summary that was never done publicly. And Nan never submitted that summary.
I don't have my report with me. I do have my great report at the house. I will locate what we were referring to. It's not in the report though, that part.
No, it's not in that report at all. It's gone. In the report that they adopted as the
And
appendix.
also the usage of the, what I had said about the adjacent to the village really technically meant adjacent to the village. Like, so that could have been a fine line all the way around the villages.
Which the Daytop Village may mean, right? Because
Yeah, so it does.
it does, because there's
Because
a
here's the village here.
and there's the,
So where's the other village? Sure.
Well, technically, they're not adjacent to the village. They're
it.
a little ways outside the village.
It
It's
is,
adjacent.
it is.
It touches, it's on the other side of the road of the village.
Yeah, it is.
So watch.
Okay, so you're saying the driveway
this is-
counts as being adjacent to the village?
It's part of the property.
But it's not, there's a space between that driveway and where it's all town.
I mean, it's within the spirit of the
Oh,
recommendation.
That's the property. It hits the road. That's all that property there.
But all of this is town.
Correct.
So it's not, to me, adjacent means you're next to it. Now you
the
can go
road
there.
there.
How far up the road is it not adjacent then? How about this? Are they adjacent?
It's adjacent to the
Yes,
source.
this is adjacent. This is all adjacent to the village. That is what basically, this is what we meant. That here is adjacent. So if you had a property technically in any of that portion of the zone, that's adjacent. That little mini New York State.
How wide is the adjacent line? 100 feet, 200
Listen,
feet?
let's just say for fun, one property over.
One property over, all right.
Then it's not in the aquifer. So then you have to eliminate anything that's in the aquifer. So that
All right, so
shortens it as
you
well.
would say one property over from,
That is how every,
all
I'm
right, so,
trying to think, every kind of overlay or hamlet
all right,
zone is
so
done.
just for the sake of discussion, this is the
Mhm.
one, where would you draw the line for?
So me, I'm a different person. This would all be a part of that. But the properties that are in the aquifer have to be Xed out. So this is in the aquifer, so it's not, it can't be it. Do you understand?
No, I do understand, but I'm saying,
Okay.
you go back 100 feet from the village, or 200 feet?
Property.
One property from the village.
So if your property is this big, then you get to go back that far.
All right, so if you live, well, there's like 3 houses there.
Yeah.
If you live in this one,
Apparently you don't win.
you don't win, okay.
You're not in the lottery.
All right. And secondly, if you only have a road, this is just a road,
Right.
that counts as
Where?
being
Where's just a road?
right here, that little thing here.
This part right here that's attached to the whole property?
This property is, if you're going back an extra property now, this is their property. But if you're saying that
That's
Right,
their property.
that little tiny thing that looks like
Yeah, that's their property.
is a road to their it's a private road.
It's their property. It's a part of.
So the
it's a
private
part of it.
road counts, okay.
They pay for
and-
that.
And all of these spaces, all right, I see what you're trying to say. It's adjacent to the village because this is their property. All right, granted.
It's argumentative, one way or the other. You don't have to agree with it.
It's a
It's a
driveway.
theory. It's a theory. It is a
It's-
driveway, but it's a shared driveway
It's
by 3 different properties.
probably
Three
not a
properties.
standard size driveway either. The 400-foot frontage, not 400-foot frontage. Grandfather though.
And it's actually a shared driveway, so there are 3 properties that
accommodates.
And two of them are not very happy about it.
Do we know that?
Yes, I would assume that they showed up at the other meetings about not being very happy about it.
Is anyone gonna be happy? I'm curious, because I'm not sure. And this is like so much work for not many happy people.
Well, we're happy. Stuff to eat and everything.
I know.
So are we going to recommend anything about environmentally looking at these properties before they're built on?
Yes,
Well, but that's what.
but that's in our report. We
But-
can't get to the
Yeah,
report
but
part
it's
yet.
also, that's down the road. This is simply commenting on the proposed zoning changes, not on any specific projects and the standards that would be applied to. So the way it's set up now in the proposal, an inn of up to 20 rooms would be permitted in the hospitality overlay district. So probably one inn in each of the three sites. But there are standards in the proposed changes for constructing that inn. Now those standards, I think now are kind of flexible, maybe a little too flexible, and so our recommendations would be things like mandating a hydrology report, mandating an independent sewage expert come in, and mandating an independent environmental review,
Yeah.
that given the significant
within our
change
purview.
and high density. So those kinds of factors those kinds of things are something that the planning board could do, but we want to make it a requirement for planning board to do those kinds of things.
And to qualify, you must be either abutting the village or one parcel over. Is that what you said this previously?
What we're doing is we're commenting on the three that they've proposed. They could propose hospitality districts anywhere in the town of Washington.
Yes, but this is what they proposed based on what Nan said. Based on what the CPRC committee did. That they could modify it again if they
Mhm.
wanted.
That's
Yes.
right.
The problem that people sometimes forget is the only person who could change the zoning code is the planning board, it's the town board.
Town board.
And they could decide to do whatever they want.
They can decide to do whatever they want.
Hopefully, they normally do what the people would like to see as well, but technically, they could make a hospitality zone anywhere if they decide. So
That's right.
Correct.
That's
They-
right.
They can. They do know that they would be best off doing it under the public's guidance.
Well, that would be best off to do what the people in the town would like to see as
Yeah.
well. They're not the only people that live in the town.
But we're here just to do a draft of what you said, like you said, on what is proposed right now. And that we're asking to slow down and that we need to give a full report
At
at a later
at a
date.
later date,
But it's not time yet because
because we've only had 10 days, 2 weeks.
and our code tells us we can give a full report that we really need to do some study on. Get the professionals.
Don't we always?
Well, this isn't a more in-depth study.
This is,
This is a big deal, by the way, changing the zoning code.
well,
I know.
so that's it. I mean, it is a big deal, and ideally, we would have the budget to get outside help for this, because it's a statutory duty of the CAC. I mean, it's not like we've decided to go to town making comments. The zoning code tells us that we need to do this.
I agree. Absolutely.
So we
So we will,
need outside help. with that.
that
People
is,
who are certified in certain areas as experts.
So the letter's going to request that we retain expert assistance in preparing the ultimate report.
yes.
That's why you're writing it, because you know the proper words to say, and hopefully we will get it.
I think we should have no problem.
But we should, at a minimum ask, right?
Or can they
Yeah.
just say no?
Yeah, and it will slow down the process.
So we just want to get it in the correct.
Mhm.
All right, so that's good, great. Anything else? Not good.
this is, I guess, after the official, so it's still part of the open meeting question. What are we doing with the STRs? Short-term rental thing?
We're waiting until they give it to us so that the rewritten portion to write it up.
All right, so the next part of that, I don't, maybe you guys are faster than me probably are. I can't sit at a meeting and look at this thing and try to follow the meeting at the same time when I pick up the handout from the town and it's part of the whole meeting agenda. And I'm supposed to follow what they're saying and then somehow read that at the same time. I don't think that they should do that.
But they're not gonna do that because they've already said they're giving it to the planning board and the CAC prior to it. And I will be, as part of my duties tomorrow, asking for it again.
Okay, good.
All
That's,
right.
that's,
Promise.
Wonderful.
Anything else on that?
no,
Okay. Any other open comments, questions, concerns? We have the Hudson Valley Regional Council is doing a greenhouse gas cohort. We have two groups. One will meet September 26th, October 15th, November 7th, and December 5th. The other one is September 28th, October 19th, November 19th, 9th, and December 7th. Is anyone interested in joining that? Anyone that wants to alleviate Leslie and Margaret having to do it? If anyone knows of anyone that would like to help us, just let us know. Otherwise, anything else out there? Thank you, Nan and David, for keeping us updated on all the stuff and this. I'm gonna read that as well. Thank you for sharing. I'll scan it or I'll share it. I have a motion to dismiss our meeting.
Motion to dismiss.
I second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night. Oh, the next meeting is
September 6th.
September 6th at 6 p.m. Thank you. These are great comments.